Welcome to the Bg Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Monday, December 30th, 2024. The year is almost over. The wait is almost over. Ohio State, Oregon in the Rose Bowl coming up. Semifinal or quarterfinal for the CFP. So, all big news. Obviously, I am not at Buckeye Huddle World Headquarters in Pickerington, Ohio. I am at my hotel here in downtown Los Angeles. So the lighting is a little funky. I can't do anything about that. You're going to see some flashing because I'm sitting about 3 feet away from the television. I have the Iowa Missouri game on, muted, of course. We don't want to sit there and have any competing things going on. Just want to keep an eye on that. And we are going to talk, of course, about the Buckeyes and the Ducks coming up here January 1st at the Rose Bowl, 5 p.m. kickoff Eastern time zone. Today was media day. And I'm not going to get into everything at first. We're having people starting to trickle in, kind of sprung the show on you. Unplanned show. Tony was like, why don't you not come out to practice today? Stay back and do a show. And I was like, wonderful. I can take my shoes off and have a moment and be able to spend it with all of our great viewers and listeners. So very excited about that. We all got out to the Rose Bowl in the last day or two. I got out here about 12 hours before Tom and Tony just to be in place, just in case something happened. But the team didn't get in until yesterday, 7 o'clock Pacific time. So Tom and Tony were in town by then. Be sure to check us out at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. We have a couple of different arrival videos from Vantage Points, interviews with Cody Simon and Will Howard. We have all of that there. And then, of course, today was Media Day. And Media Day is something that we don't get every year. It really depends on the bowl schedule. It depends on the bowl. We did not get it last year for Ohio State, Missouri in the Cotton Bowl. It was not a playoff game. It was still part of the access bowls, the New Year's Six, whatever. But we did not get one. We got one today. You're only mandated to bring your two deep, really. Ohio State brought its whole team. Oregon did not bring as many, and that was fine. And we have interviews coming from Dan Lanning, from Derek Harmon, and from Terrence Ferguson. Those are the three that I shot. Those will be released as the evening goes on. We didn't want to drop every single video all at once. It floods the channel, probably bad for the algorithm. I'm still not sure on that one. We're trying to grow the channel. We're trying to grow Buckeye Huddle too. We're trying to grow the channel. So we're trying some different things. And then on the other side, we have Ryan Day, his full presser, 43 plus minutes. And then 7 of the 8 podiums we have. And let's see if I can remember everybody. Jack Sawyer, Donovan Jackson, Lathan Ransom, Trevion Henderson, Will Howard, if I didn't say him, Emeka Ibuka. I'm not remembering everybody, but these interviews are either already posted on youtube.com/Buckeye, but don't go and look at them yet. Don't go and look at them yet. You're here with me, but they'll be there. And then some of them will be released. I have them scheduled to just drop one an hour through the end of the night. But it's always very interesting at Bowl Media Day. And I'm going to get to a question from It's Just Me Tim here in a second. And I think I know what he is referring to. Do I think Dan Lanning is a liar? Is that in reference to the rumor that is floating around that Oregon has caught the flu? I was at Dan Lanning for about 18 minutes. I didn't hear anything about the flu. I've talked to 3 separate people who have asked me if I've heard about the flu rumor. And yes, I've heard about the flu rumor. I don't know anything. I talked to an Oregon beat writer prior to hearing about it. And he said the team was healthy. But I didn't ask him if anybody was sick. And it's not like everybody's trying to be dodgy with everybody. It's not like we're trying to deceive one another. We're just here to cover the story. At the end of the day, that is what our job is. If we start to cheerlead if we start to cheerlead, then that's when you cross the line of being an objective reporter into something else. And it's just me. Tim just added what it is. So let me look at this. About that squib kickoff that he said it was accidental. I was not there for that. Again, I only shot the 18 minutes and needed to move on because I can't necessarily lock one camera down too long. I was shooting with two different cameras, not at once. I would have one camera set up on a tripod and I would have the other one handheld, but I was not there. I know on the telecast they said that it looked like it could have been a mishit. I don't necessarily know why Dan Lanning would lie about it, but coaches are very superstitious. Coaches are very guarded. Coaches, they're a strange duck. They're a strange duck. See what I did there? And there could be some misdirection. There could be some misdirection there. Just me. Tim says I just don't like him. I think he's a lying cheat. Well, be careful. I certainly have seen people who are trying to run Ryan Day out of town mentioning Lanning as kind of the dream hire. If Ohio State wins on Wednesday, can we put that to rest for a while, at least until November? Can we put that to rest? I don't know. Everybody's got to come to their own individual place that they're cool with. Whether or not we're going to have to keep hearing, is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Is he not on the hot seat? What is it? And don't call me Herbie. I am not talking about the lunatic French. I will say that there are some people on Twitter that could be a little unhinged. But I'm not going to talk about that. Anybody who watches my show and is an Ohio State fan is good with me. Anybody who signs up for Buckeye Huddle and is an Ohio State fan is good with me. I do not alienate customers. I mean, it makes no sense to me. I mean, I guess when you think you're too big to fail, you could do it. I mean, you know what? I guess if we had like 4.2 million subscribers on YouTube, we could break a couple of eggs, but why? What's the point of that? I don't know. Terry jumped in here. I got a water next to me. I already knew my voice was kind of weak today. Several Duck fans have mentioned today that what they're hearing about being sick again, separate from the Big Ten championship. So again, I don't really know. This is one of these things when we're talking about a team being sick or something like a hidden injury, it doesn't benefit anybody to leak that information. It really doesn't. I mean, as you know, sometimes information is leaked to get out ahead of a story. But at this point, the hay's in the barn. There's no real reason to try to hide it. Or to let it out. I mean, I think you just sit there and you show up, and if 2 and 6 and 17 and 38 and 19 or whatever are not playing, then so be it. I mean, and you hear about it on the telecast. I'd love to find out about it, but I don't know who I'm necessarily going to be able to chase down. I mean, Ohio State going into the season was dealing with some sickness and they missed some practices along the way. I certainly remember in the 2020 season, Ohio State for the Michigan State game had to play a reworked offensive line because several players had tested for COVID and were out. So you gotta kind of work with that. But Ohio State has had its fair share of bad luck with injuries and things of that note. And obviously, we talked to Donovan, about that situation. Remember, it was in the Oregon game that Josh Simmons, Jimmy, was injured. They lost him first half, I think it was. I watched the game back once. I didn't watch it again, but I watched it once leading up to this. So again, it is what it is. We got Brandon here. Lanning is a heck of a coach. I'm good with Coach Day through it all. And both statements can be very true. Selfishly from a financial standpoint, a coaching search is always great for websites if you do a good job covering it, because everybody's looking for information. But you know, I personally am not of the mindset of that Ohio State needs to make a change. Now, coming out of that Michigan game, I just like everybody, I was like, I do not understand what I just watched. I don't understand the game plan I saw. How can they get there to this point? If they could not do it this year, how are they going to do it moving forward? In my personal view, I think that people should have a lot of enthusiasm toward what was done against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee dealt with a lot of injuries, some of them coming in. Allegedly, Sampson had a hamstring injury that he was nursing and wasn't really right for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a different animal with Oregon. Oregon is, I'm trying to remember how the Missouri writer, who's a buddy of mine, he put it, Ohio State has, they're both equally, really talented teams on the top level. Ohio State probably has more good guys depth than Oregon, and Oregon is closing the gap. And, we've seen Oregon being a real pain in the ass on the recruiting trail. We've seen that. And I think that it's going to be a case of where, if we're being honest, Ohio State's biggest challenge yearly is going to be Oregon. I mean, that's my belief, and Michigan fan out there may come be like, well, beat us first before you dismiss us. That's all well and good. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that crap. So I think that Oregon is going to kind of be there. So this game is really going to come down to execution. Who plays the cleanest, things of that nature. Don't screw up on special teams. And that's not me talking about field goals and missing field goals. And I understand that people are very, very, very gun shy. And I don't have any reason to tell you to not be gun shy. I mean, I think we all should be gun shy. I mean, you didn't have to see it under a pressure situation during the game. I mean, what I can tell you is it's not going to be cold and windy at the Rose Bowl. It's going to be pristine. I think it's going to be 70 degrees at kickoff, everything else. All right, let's keep going on here, because again, I just got a super chat, so we're going to jump that to the head of the line in a second. This is your show. I want you guys to program it for me. I can talk a little bit about media days. I can talk a lot about media days. I could talk none about media days. I know I didn't do a show for a good part of last week because I just got busy. I was writing a lot of stories, and it just didn't happen with Christmas and Hanukkah starting on the 25th. Everything else, it got bottled up. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that have been like, "Where the hell have you been? You did five shows one week, and then you did like no shows the next week." Sorry, I mean it was just a lot of running around, and with a one of the big holidays right there on the week, it just made it really difficult. Super chat. Omar Austin, Ohio State by 10, 34-24. Book it. Go Bucks. Happy New Year, Kevin. Happy New Year to you as well, Omar. 34-24. I mean, I can accept that score. It doesn't sound too far off of where I'm thinking. I would assume that my prediction, along with Tom, Tony, Mark, Ross's, all of those predictions should probably go up tomorrow. Not talk to Mark about it yet, but I turned mine in yesterday. I will keep mine kind of under wraps at this point. A lot of times I spoil it and say it on a show, but we'll keep it up for wraps because I think a lot of people, everybody's got a lot of interest in this game. Everybody has a lot of interest in this game, and I think if there's ever a game to sit there and not spoil my pick, we'll wait there. Now, the fact that I've talked about my pick for twice on this show in 14 minutes, I'll let you do a little deductive reasoning there. I would not be talking about it as much if I were picking against Ohio State. But you just have to wait and see. You just have to wait and see. Let me see where we were. That's there. It's just me, Tim, getting back there. I'm talking about that Oregon recovered kickoff. Clearly, it was a sad attempt at an onside kick by Oregon. After the game, Dan Lanning said it wasn't planned, as if they were just going to normal kick it. Again, I have posted the Lanning transcript from today on Buckeye Huddle on our game thread. I didn't read it. I was finishing something up and I just saw it. I'm going to try and post some other transcripts as well. That's the nice thing about a bowl game. They bring in stenographers and they transcribe a lot of the stuff. The one people are like, "What's the worst part of the job?" Transcribing material is probably, if it is not the worst part of the job, it is in the top two. Yeah, I hate it. We all hate it. We all use AI programs that help us with transcription that were not there 3, 4 years ago, and the AI is getting better. And all hail our robot overlords for taking that transcribing duty off of my plate because I hate it. So I don't know. I wrote in one of my pieces, not my piece today, but Tail of the Tape. That is a member exclusive. If you're not a member of Buckeye Huddle, $4.99 for your first month will get you full month's access, which would get you all the way through the national championship game. Hell, it would almost get you up to the February signing period. But even if Ohio State doesn't sign anybody really in the signing period for their portal news, things like that, greatest community in my opinion in all of Buckeye Nation. Very chill, very relaxed. Sometimes you have to go in with armor and a sword into some Buckeye communities because newcomers are frowned upon because it becomes a big social club, which is always a great part of it. You want to be in the club, you want to be one of the cool kids. But if you sign up for Buckeye Huddle, I promise I will help you become one of the cool kids over Buckeye Huddle. $4.99 for your first month. Let me just keep going here. Sage, Ohio. Hello, huddlers. Hello to you, Sage. Hope you are doing well. An early Happy New Year to you. Happy holidays. I mean, we're past Christmas and Hanukkah and everything else, so that has kind of moved by. Lisa Sims, hello, go Buckeyes. Yep, sickness is going around my family. Got sick around Christmas, and I got the stomach bug 2 days after Christmas. I've been trying to get better for the last few days. So some Oregon players may be sick again. That is the rumor. That is the rumor. I cannot confirm it. I cannot deny it. Um, honestly, I understand. I mean, in a talent equated game, especially a game that Ohio State lost the first time by a point at Oregon, but lost the game nonetheless. We're not lost deniers. We're not here to deny that Ohio. At no point am I going to say, well, Ohio State actually won that game. I mean, it was, the votes were miscalculated. No, they lost the game. But I think that everybody would really like to see Ohio State just go out there and beat Oregon at full strength. I mean, Oregon's going to have Jordan Birch for this game. Did not have Jordan Birch for the last game. Remember when Ohio State played Oregon in Columbus, they didn't have Kayvon Thibodeau. So maybe it's better for Ohio State to play Oregon with its top defensive end because Ohio State is 9-2 against Oregon, and Ohio State's only two losses have been when Oregon's best defensive end at the time has been out. And again, that's just how stuff works out sometimes. I'm not saying that that holds true and that the stars are going to align to that. Sage said touchdown Iowa. Yeah, it's 21-14 Iowa. 24 seconds left in the first half at the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. There is a ruling on field for targeting right now, so they're going through all of that garbage right now. More from Lisa. I wouldn't put it past Oregon to pull some kind of crap again like they did last time. They cannot do the 12 man on the field thing. They immediately changed that rule. The glacial pace of the NC2A did not hold that one up. So that one has been taken care of. But, Dan Lanning was asked point blank about that doing the 12 man thing. He said, they are always looking and digging into situations and things of that nature. So, and you should. And you should. I mean, people are like, well, you're not playing the game straight up. Any advantage you can get within the boundaries of the rules, I think is fair game. If you're not looking for things that you can sit there and have break in your favor, well, then what are you doing? What are you doing at that point? And I'm sure there are going to be some people who's like, well, you should win with honor. It's not honorable to do that stuff. I'm not here to judge that. I'm not a win at all cost person because you say win at all costs and then you sit there and you have Connor Stallions. You have a Connor Stallions situation. So that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying if within the definition of the rules, fine. Hit somebody all the way up through the echo of the whistle, but don't hit them 5 seconds after the play. Just my 2 cents. Just my 2 cents on that. David Greenfield, Oregon getting Ohio guys. Yeah, I mean that's certainly a problem when you sit there and you look at Trey McNutt. You look at Dorian Brew, even though Dorian Brew moved to Conroe, a Houston suburb, a northern suburb of Houston. Oregon is going to be a pain in the ass. Period. And the thing is that it's not going away. Phil Knight is very advanced in years, and when Phil Knight is called home and no longer walks amongst us, it's not like Oregon's just going to go right into the toilet. I'm sure that he probably has some things worked into his last will and testament that will take care of Oregon for a while. But the thing is that Ohio State is kind of a rare bird, kind of something we've been talking about a lot, a rare bird in football in terms of when has been a bad period, like an extended bad period for Ohio State. 2011, they went 6-7 under interim coach Luke Fickell. And there were a couple bad years under Coop. Bad years under Earl were 8-4. Ohio State doesn't have like this long period of where it goes dormant. Maybe when Ohio State first picked up football in the 1800s, I mean, things weren't necessarily great, but you're building from zero at that point. But Ohio State has not. I mean, it's probably the only program out there that does not have that whole situation. Let's remember, Alabama before Nick Saban was not the Alabama of Nick Saban. They went through a lot of jokers at head coach that did not get stuff done. And when you sit there and you see Louisiana Monroe's and teams like that beating Alabama, you're in your dark days. It's been a long time since Marietta has beat Ohio State. It's been a long time since, the Carlisle Indians have beat Ohio State. I mean, we're, again, back into like the 1800s. So, I don't know. Terry, we got another one from you here. Will this be mentioned to our coaches and the refs for our game? Ohio State ranks dead last, 134th in the country in opponent penalties, and they have not had one opponent holding called. I don't think that second part of the statement is true. I think our Tony Gerdeman did a deep dive, and I think that there was one holding called, one this year. If I read it right, maybe I didn't. I mean, get a lot of information that goes in front of us at this time of the year. So, I mean, sometimes you see something and you misremember it, but that's the way I remember it. The first half of the statement is true. 134. I mean, about dead last. And honestly, really, there's only 133 1A teams. There's one team in transition, which I guess technically makes it to 134. But when you're transitional going from FCS to FBS, you are, but you aren't FBS at that point. But Ohio State's aware of it, absolutely. I mean, they've got they've got a small city of people over at the Woody involved with football. I mean, it is a gigantic process, so they're aware of it. I don't know how you go to the ref and be like, hey, jackass, we get screwed all the time on penalty calls. Do better. And I know that's not necessarily what Terry's saying that they need to do, but I mean, I don't know how you go, hey, Blue, I still call officials Blue from playing baseball and them wearing blue shirts. I mean, hey, Blue, not sure if you're aware, but, we really don't ever seem to get any calls. Can you keep an eye on that? Well, yeah, again, I don't know how you necessarily fix that. I think it just kind of is what it is. And it's just one more thing to overcome. It's just one more thing that you got to overcome. Let's keep going here. It's just me, Tim. Should college football coaches be allowed to blatantly lie about football and spread misinformation? I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, they're not duty bound to have to tell the truth all the time, because you can sit there and say that coaches are lying about injury statuses. I mean, yeah, you do have to put out your availability report, and it depends, on your conference if you have that rule or you don't have that rule. Big Ten, it comes out 3 hours prior to a game. SEC, I think it comes out like earlier in the week. But it's a situation of now that there's sports wagering, there's certainly more of a of an onus on having a little bit more accurate information out there. But I'm not going to get myself wound up over a coach not exactly being forthcoming, which is just a really polite way of insinuating what It's Just Me, Tim is saying. If it's one of these things, like if you don't know if somebody's going to play, you better just prepare for them. You better just prepare for them at that point. If somebody says that something was an accident and it wasn't planned, you know what? It would be a hell of a lot easier for Dan Lanning to sit there and say, "We did that on purpose because I'm a freaking genius. I'm a freaking genius. I came up with this. Me, me, me. Pay me more. I am so smart." SMRT. I mean, SMART. Simpsons reference. If you want, then to be like, "Oh, it was just an accident." I mean, then again, there could be a long game of by aw shucksing it and just dismissing it as nothing. But again, I personally, it doesn't change one bit of anything. It doesn't change the game October 12th. It doesn't change the game coming up here on January 1st. It just is what it is, and you can just, It's Just Me, Tim follows up with his next statement is, I'm sorry, I just don't like Lanning. I think he's a bad person that you shouldn't trust. And I'm not here to change Tim's mind. Tim's not here to change my mind. He's not here to change your mind. You're not going to change his mind. Everybody, free damn country. You can believe what you want to believe, and that's what makes it all good. Son of Sarek, are you guys at Buckeye Huddle planning any meet and greet with your fans? Well, here's the issue that we run into. This trip is really truncated. Normally, we would come out Christmas night for a New Year's Eve or a New Year's Day game. With the playoff, with there potentially being 4 rounds, they have truncated the schedule to keep players from having to be gone as long, even though the first couple of rounds school's out for everybody. But I understand what they're doing, and this hotel's $249 a night media rate pre-tax. So I mean, honestly, it's going to be closer to $300 a night, and if you add 3 more nights, I mean, it's a great expense. Again, another reason to support us by hitting the thumbs up, subscribing to the channel, hitting the bell. If you're listening on an audio platform, give us a 5-star review. And of course, the best 2 ways that you can support us. One, the greatest way is by signing up for Buckeye Huddle, $4.99 for your first month. The second best way, be like Omar and throw us a super chat. We do have to share some of that money with Google, which is not fun, but they provide the platform and everything. So I'm not necessarily going to be unreasonable and yell and scream about it. But those are ways that you can support us. But to the point, everybody really got into town yesterday to be functional, functionally speaking. And we had an event at 7 p.m. So yesterday was off the table. Tonight is the media party. It's only till 8 Pacific, 8 Pacific. So 11 o'clock Eastern time. And then, I guess theoretically we could do something, but it's really hard to plan. And then on the 31st, we only have one event in the morning. So the 31st would be the thing that would make sense. But we are so focused on our content production and everything else that playing cruise director and creating that is difficult. It's like at home. It's like it for an Ohio State home game. We would love to have a tailgate. We've had tailgates in the past at previous stops for myself, but it was always somebody taking the lead and doing it, and we just had to show up. And I know it sounds like, oh, what are you, just too damn good to put in the work? It's just too damn busy. Just too damn busy. And like I did in New Orleans, I did for the BCS championship game against LSU. I did take the time and put together a party at a bar. And a buddy of mine who owns 3 restaurants in Central Ohio helped with some of the stuff. And nobody showed up. I mean, it was very, very, very small. And I felt, again, and I was very apologetic. I'm so sorry and everything else. That's fine. It's fine. But I felt like a jerk that I just could not pull a lot of people. So what I would say is the best way of doing this maybe we're gonna have to kick it down, and we just got a super chat, so I'm gonna get to that in a second. Is kick the can down the road, just win this damn game. Let's get to Dallas and figure it out how to do it in Dallas. Now, of course, if Son of Sarek is local to Southern California, that doesn't do Son of Sarek any good. But I just wanted to explain the geometry of why it's difficult sometimes for us to be able to be committal to those types of things. I can't even commit to go to one of my fraternity brothers' tailgates on any regularity in Columbus, and it's at French Fieldhouse. It's right outside of French Fieldhouse. I have to walk like, a quarter of a mile out of my way, and I have a hard time being able to do it because of responsibilities and everything else. And then, I certainly wasn't going outside for the Tennessee game. It was just too damn cold, and I'm just too damn precious to do that. Let's keep going. Let's get to the super chat, and then we will pick up where we are. We're Omar Austin, thumbs up, subscribe, and super chat, ya mutts. You heard the man. And I went to dinner with Omar, so I know him. He's family. And we went to lunch, too. We went to lunch in Columbus, dinner where he lives. I'm not going to get into all of his personal information. I don't need anybody stalking my guy Omar. But, and that's one of the things, too. It is actually easier for us to go to lunch with somebody on a off day type situation than it is to do something under the umbrella of a game weekend. It's a lot easier on a Wednesday. Hey, I'm going to be in town on a Wednesday. Can anybody on staff want to go to lunch or get a beer or something like that? That is, certainly a lot easier to do, because on a Wednesday, certainly like during football season, we have interviews at what time, 6:30 p.m., something like that. So going out to lunch is not a big issue. We're busy, never too busy to hang out with our subscribers, our members. That's very important. This is a customer service industry in a lot of ways. Yes, we write content, we produce videos, we do a lot of stuff, but if we are not attentive to our consumers' needs, our consumers will go elsewhere. So I make it a huge priority whenever I can. Now, there are going to be times I just can't do it. There are just going to be times I can't do it, and I hate it. I hate it when I can't do those things. It eats at me, but just sometimes I can't clone myself to be in a couple places. And could the world really take two Kevin Noons if I cloned myself? I don't think so. I don't think so. So thank you again for the super chat. Omar on the board with 2 super chats so far. Let me see where we were. Mellow number 7 is on board. Let's go. And the Rose. And they're saying that Oregon is sick again. We talked about a little earlier, but again, I understand people jump in and out of the show, and it's fine. I don't mind. I don't even view it as repeating myself. I just, I understand that we're 33 minutes into the show, and it needs to be said. I can't confirm that, Mello. I cannot confirm it. I'm not here to deny it either. I'm not sure, and I'm not even really that concerned with where it started. If it started out from like a legitimate outlet or just some jabron out there saying it, I don't know. One way or the other, it's taken on a life of its own. I'm willing to bet tomorrow at the coach's press conference, somebody will ask, and Dan Lanning will dodge it like the big red ball in second grade when you were playing dodgeball. He's not going to say anything about it because you just don't want to get it out there. And again, it would not change how Ohio State prepares for the game. Unless people were sent to the ER or home and the news got out there. I mean, even the ER, you're running into HIPAA violations, but unless they were sent home because they're just so sickly that they cannot function here, they need to go home for special care or whatever, Ohio State's not going to change how it's approaching there. So, you do that. But again, if Oregon sends a bunch of sick players out there, Ohio State better sit there and take their vitamin C and everything else, because if Ohio State wins, it's got to turn around and play again on the 10th of January. I believe the Cotton is on the 10th and the Orange is on the 11th. Check me if I'm wrong, but I think that is right. Wingman Ted, how many players toss for spitting in this rematch? Over under 0.5. I'm going to take the under. I know you're doing a bit there, but I'm going to take the under just because I think everybody saw the ramifications, what happened last time, and somebody getting the gate. So no spitting. G is saying, I don't believe for 1 second they intentionally put a 12th man on the field. I'm going to disagree with you respectfully. It was a planned move. It was a planned move. You sit there and would have the option, to get the play taken off. I mean, of it not counting or whatever with the penalty. I just think it was, it was just a weak spot in the rule book, and you need to sometimes figure that stuff out. You need to figure that out. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know how many people out there watch South Park. We have 400 plus people watching this between the three platforms. I don't know how many of y'all watch South Park. The one where they have the gaming club for the boys and they kick the girls out, and because the Dice Studs wants to not deal with that, because the girls read all of the rules, the games that they're playing, and then kick their asses. Sometimes you just need to make sure that you know all of the rules. A lot of times the guys in the TV booth don't know all the rules. Hell, sometimes the guys on the field in the black and white stripes don't know all the rules. But again, that's just how I feel. Let me keep going here. Lisa Sims saying, yeah, I don't trust Lanning either, but hopefully they don't spit on any of our players this time. I had forgotten about the spitting incident. And for those who don't remember, IGB got spit on by Oregon's number 3 receiver, who was given the gate for the entire game. He came out and released a statement after the game that, he was caught up in the moment, and that's, he was raised better than that, and that was not his, that's not who he is and everything else. And, stuff happens in competition. I'm not defending the kid, but I am saying that, it doesn't mean that he is just a giant piece of crap and everything else. You do sometimes get caught up in the moment. I mean, I competed in athletics for a while, certainly not at the collegiate level. And I remember sometimes losing my cool. So it is what it is. Let's keep going. If I skip any of your questions, I apologize. Let's see how far behind I am. I'm 15 minutes behind on my comments. So that's better. It's usually about 24 minutes. So maybe I'm getting through them quicker. Omar Austin, who do I like to win the UGA Notre Dame game? I like Notre Dame because I don't think Gunnar Stockton is ready. I really was not a Carson Beck fan, and I think that you're going to have an even worse version of Carson Beck with Gunnar Stockton. I mean, yes, they've had the availability to be able to try to ease them into things over the last couple of weeks, but if he were so much better, he would have been playing sooner, because Carson Beck sucked this year. He was just not good. I also think that people are going to be quick to say, well, Notre Dame hasn't played anybody, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, well, it's not like Georgia has necessarily had the cleanest of seasons themselves. I think that Notre Dame's running game is really going to be impactful. And I just don't think Georgia can't run the ball either. Georgia can't throw the ball, and Georgia can't run the ball. So unless the defense scores 28 points, I don't know how Georgia's going to win the game. And yes, I have a couple dollars on that game on the Irish. Not much. My unit is like $1. I mean, I am such a low stakes guy. I don't have any money. We did not get into this industry to get rich. Well, we all did, but none of us did. None of us got rich. So there you go. David Greenshield, thoughts on the ability to get a pass rush with our front four? I'm not for sure confident we can. The Oregon tackles are much better than Tennessee's. They are. There certainly were some issues with the Tennessee offensive line. Their fans were ready to shoot them into space by the end of the game. Oregon's got a really solid line, but Ohio State was doing more of a cage type of situation at that point of the season. They were not getting after the quarterback as much. Now, the thing is that if you sit there and the more pressure you get there, that gives Dylan Gabriel the opportunity to do a little juke magic and get scampering. So how do you get to Gabriel and not let Gabriel beat you with his legs? And that is, that's $1 million question. But Ohio State has only had 2 games this season where it has not recorded a sack. Oregon and Michigan. The result of those 2 games, loss and loss. So Ohio State has to get a pass rush. I would be willing to forego a little bit of the containment to get him on the ground a couple times. Hell, maybe have him throw an interception. You hit him, I mean, he can be a little bit of a turnover machine. He hasn't really shown it, but if you hit him, it's there. And then if they're going, I mean, and people ask me, are they going to spy him the way that they spied Nico for Tennessee? I don't think Gabriel is that kind of runner. But if you're spying him, it probably should be somebody different than JT Tuimoloau. I don't know if he's necessarily my spy for an ultra shifty type of quarterback. JT can do just about everything great. Spying, not so much, in my opinion. But so hopefully that's that answers that, David. I think that they have to. In short, they have to have some sort of pass rush. And I'm not saying they have to have 5 sacks to win the game. I mean, that sure as hell would be nice. It would make things a lot easier. But they have to have the threat of getting home, because if you're just sitting there and you're just doing a cage, it's you're going to have all day. And Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart is too good. When offense knows where it's going and defense is reacting to it, they're going to eventually get open. And that's why you had a 32-31 type of game. So there you go. We keep scrolling here. We have Brutus Smithers saying mainstream media and refs hate Ohio State and its fans. I do think that there are a lot of people that don't like Ohio State. I'm not going to say necessarily refs. I think that's a statement of frustration than anything. But Ohio State, there's not a lot of people that are lukewarm to Ohio State. You love them or you hate them. Period. There's no, they're okay, I guess. I don't care. I mean, I don't mind if they win, but whatever. That doesn't exist in my opinion. You love them or you hate them. Indiana, they're going to be the people that love Indiana. They're going to be Purdue fans and maybe Kentucky fans that hate Indiana. And then I think everybody else is like, who? Well, I don't know. I don't care. I mean, certainly going into the college football playoff, there were a lot more people that hated them that, felt that they got, kind of, robbed of their CFP slot because of Indiana's inclusion. I think Indiana absolutely needed to be included. But that's my opinion of the situation. And I covered the Big Ten all year, and I had a lot of respect for the Big Ten. Yes, Indiana did not advance. I don't, life's tough in the big city sometimes. So there you go. Ohio Bookseller, sorry for being late. YouTube notification didn't work today. Well, here's part of the issue with this, Ohio Bookseller. I did not schedule this show. I talked to Tony. They were out at Oregon practice. They were just going to stay out there because taking the shuttle back, they just had to turn around and get back on the shuttle and go back out to Ohio State practice. We don't need all three of us at this. Why don't you sit down and do a show? I'm like, well, I'm eating lunch, but let me finish my lunch and I'll run up to my room and we'll do a show. So at that point, I was like, once I turned the computer on, I'm like, I want to start this show in 5 minutes. And it doesn't make any sense to just schedule it for 5 minutes later. So I just did a, schedule and let's just go type of situation. So that's probably why it happened, but happy you're here. Brad Robinson, have we heard which conference the officials will be for the Rose Bowl? It will be the ACC, not the same crew that did the Tennessee game, but it is the ACC. Part of the issue is that you have to kind of figure out, they release the schedule, or they release the officials. Like I read this on something on a website. I don't remember which one it is, on December 9th. And you can't have officials from the conference of either team that's playing. This one just happens to be both teams from Big Ten, so you couldn't have Big Ten. But it could have been ACC, or it could have been Big Ten versus SEC if Tennessee would have won. So then it would have to be Big 12 or ACC. So that's kind of how all of that works. So you sit there and you look at the teams that were all available in the top half of the bracket going into the Cotton Bowl. That's all going to kind of be figured out there. But the thing is there are no assignments that are released further than this round of playoff games. So let's just say hypothetically it's Ohio State, Texas. That's SEC and Big Ten. So it's going to either be ACC for the third time or theoretically Big 12. I bet you they'd want to avoid it being Big 12, with Texas being a member of the Big 12 last season. And there being, of course, people who are like, oh, the fix is in. The Big 12 is going to try and screw Texas for leaving the conference and yada, yada, yada. So I think there's a better than zero chance that if it's either way, because it's Big Ten coming out of the one side, that it's going to be ACC officials again. And that's because that's just kind of how it works. And you just kind of go from there. G, let me hit go on that one. How many Pac-12 crews does the Big Ten pick up? Would be interesting to run the math on the crews and their calls. I meant to look that one up. The problem is I've not really done the work on it. I've not done the work on it to see, all right, these are all of the crews, because theoretically, what's the most amount of crews that you would need to have? Because it depends. It's like, well, 18. But I don't think that there's a week where all 18 teams play at home. I mean, they'll play at home. You can't have 18 ref crews, because there are going to be a couple ref crews that are going to get like one game, or like one game where something happens and then that's it. So I mean, do they, like, the Big Ten is in an officiating consortium with the MAC and like it's not the Sun Belt. I don't remember who it is. I went to one of their meetings once for like a media event, and I just don't remember. I had a whole new respect for the job of officials, and I already did. I officiated a little in college when I was at Ohio State, and it ain't easy. I can assure you of that. I'll look into it. That is a February, March project. That is not a January project or a December project by any stretch of the imagination. Let me try and burn that into my mind, and I'll try to get back to you on there. Son of Serica saying, I think 5 officials from the Pac. Again, I don't know. I do think that both of Ohio State's losses were the same crew. I think they were both the Larry Smith crew, if I remember correctly. And of course, people were going to say, "Oh my God, conspiracy!" I just felt that the crew wasn't very good, but it's just, I don't think that there was any conspiracy. And I do think that Larry Smith crew is calling I do think that they will be on the field for one of the other quarterfinal games. I thought I saw it, but I'm not positive. David Whalen saying they took out our center, we take out their quarterback. You put one of us, they put one of yours in the morgue, or one of yours in the hospital. You put one of theirs in the morgue. Untouchables, right? No, nobody's rooting for injuries, and David Whalen's not rooting for injuries. But I get what you're saying for certain. Again, I still don't even necessarily remember how Simmons was hurt. I just remember him being down. And again, as I said, I watched the game once, but you're doing it with the computer in the lap, and I'm jotting down some notes in a Word document, and I just didn't focus in on it. Odysseus saying before I said it, because his comment was 21 minutes ago, the worst crew is Larry Smith, who's been Big Ten for years now. Yeah, it's not. I just baffled by some of the calls on that crew. And sometimes you're going to have mixtures of crews, like especially in the postseason, of where it might be I always say the white hat, which is the ref. It might be the ref and the side judge and the back judge of this crew, and it could be the umpire and the center judge from this crew. Maybe they're putting together an all-star crew, certainly like in the Super Bowl, or in Major League Baseball, of where you're not necessarily just with your own crew. But yeah, I don't know. And Odysseus, again, I should have just let Odysseus say this stuff, because he was on it. I mean, even before I had a chance to say it. Another problem when I fall 20 minutes behind. But the problem is I don't want to skip a bunch of your comments, because then you won't ask me questions. Oh, Loon's not going to read my question anyway. Why should I bother with it? And then I actually have to prepare stuff, and that's a lose-lose proposition. Let's just keep going. It's just me, Tim, talking about the room. $300 a night. It should come with an escort service. Amen. No, that's the $1,000 room. That's the $1,000 room. That might be the case there. $300 for the room and $700 for the entertainment. Ryan Daysbeard, how are you guys feeling about this game? As I said earlier in the show, our predictions will release, I think, tomorrow. Mark could maybe hold them until Wednesday because remember the game isn't until 5 Eastern. Got to have a little fresh content. I will have a comment. My 3 shots piece will be on Wednesday on New Year's Day. I will have my by the numbers piece tomorrow. Today was Tail of the Tape. Tail of the Tape again is a member exclusive. You can only read it if you are a member of Buckeye Huddle. 4,000 word breakdown of how I see position battles and things of that. If you've not read it, people love it. People really love the Tail of the Tape. It is a pain in the butt to write, but I have tried to like not do it a couple of different years, and people get mad at me. They're like, "You have to do it. That's like one of our 3 favorite pieces." That and Skull Session and Michigan Monday. Those are the things we really like. Tom's photos. I mean, don't take that away from us. So $4.99 for your first month at Buckeye Huddle. Again, just check us out for a month. Check us out for a month. See if you like it. See if you like the community. I mean, $5. I think that there are burgers. I think there are, not, and I'm not even talking about Five Guys. I think there are burgers at like Wendy's and McDonald's that are $5 a la carte. For the price of one of those, you can check us out. And not only are you checking it out, you're supporting us. You're helping us because again, we all do this as a living. This is how we put food on the table. And but Kevin, you're fat. Of course you're eating. You must be doing really well. Well, not necessarily saying that either. Let's just come back. Brutus Smithers, escort, you might come back to Ohio with a souvenir for life. Well, she's not going to give me the kid, but I understand what you're saying. Oh, VD or whatever. Yeah, no, I only joke. I only joke. I am not looking to do any of that type of stuff to where I could put myself in a bad situation. Let me just keep going here. Again, I'm not necessarily going to be able to get to every single question. We're going to go probably an hour 15. We're at the 52-minute mark, maybe 1:30. I'm not planning on it. I'd like to lay down on the bed for a little bit and rest. We played poker in the media room last night. Just sat around until they closed it, which was 3 Eastern. It was midnight Pacific time. I'm old. I just get tired. Let me just keep going here. Odysseus. Has Tony sampled the local ketchup yet? And is Tom overjoyed to be in his favorite bowl venue? Tom loves the Rose Bowl. I really like the Rose Bowl. There are some aspects of the Rose Bowl that are not great. And it's just because of you're in Los Angeles and it's congested and this and that and the other, and you're having to fly across the country, and it's hard to target when events are going to start, on day one. But yeah, Tom is over the moon about it. I mean, he really is the most vocal of the three of us, but it's not like Tony and I don't like the Rose Bowl. I like coming home to California. Not that I have any family here. I have not seen Tony sample any of the local ketchup. I'm trying to think of what we had. They were not here for lunch. We had cold cut sandwiches for lunch yesterday. What was dinner? I don't remember what dinner. Oh, there was like a sliced sirloin steak that was pretty good. There wasn't anything that had ketchup. Now we did have hash browns this morning. We did order like home fries that were pretty good. There is a very real chance that he could have put ketchup on it, but I don't know if there's like an Albertsons store brand or something that he can try as, sampling a local thing. It was, we're staying at a Marriott property, so I think we probably do get full-fledged Heinz. I don't think we're getting like what is the one like at some of like the cheap steakhouses and stuff. We're not necessarily getting like the Gordon Food Service ketchup or anything like that. Let me keep scrolling. Just me, Tim. You fly to California in a 4-hour flight. You get to have an additional meal because of the time difference. Ha. Well, it didn't take us 4 hours. I think with our layover, and me again, I didn't fly with them, so my flight was different. I went Columbus to Dallas, Love Field to LAX. We in Dallas, we did not leave the plane. LA was the continuation of the flight. I think the whole thing was listed as 6:45. We certainly were not on the ground for 2 hours. We were on the ground for 30 minutes, 35 minutes. We took off late. We got in a lot later than we'd wanted to. Not like we would have been able to do anything that night, but I got into my room at 2:11 in the morning Pacific time, 5:11 Eastern time, and I think it took me about an hour and a half to fall asleep because run, 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 run. Got to go catch our Uber. Got to get checked in. Got to do all this stuff. I got to unpack gear because if I don't see certain gear here, I panic. I mean, so there was a lot of hemming and hawing, and I fly Southwest, so we did not get a second bag of pretzels. Tom and Tony went through. I don't remember. Chicago. They went through Midway. And I think the Midway to LA, I think they went through twice with drink and pretzel service. But no, there were zero meals on my flight. There were zero meals, but I do have a bag of Welch's Fruit Chewies, and those will be good for the flight home. I did not get to them. I did have a thing of Starburst, and I ate all of those. CW, who is sick? I don't know. Again, I've heard the rumor. Can't confirm it. Can't deny it. I think that that's something that the Oregon beat will have a better shot of breaking. We've seen Oregon for the only time that we're going to see them, and I did not get to go to the Oregon practice. And the problem is you sit there and you don't only bring 73 with you. This isn't a road game. It is a bowl game. You bring your entire roster out. None of us know the Oregon roster well enough to be able to be like, oh my God, Joe Blow is not there. I mean, so again, I think if it's going to get broken prior to the game, it's going to be a situation of where it's going to be an Oregon guy who's aware of the roster is going to do it. I don't think you're going to see anybody get listed as out on an availability report. I don't think you're going to see anybody getting listed as questionable on an availability report. And the truth of the matter is that we're not going to have that till 2 p.m. Eastern, 3 hours before the game for Oregon or for both. Little birdie, I do get to see the Ohio State one a little early, but under the proviso that I do not release it before when it needs to be released. Let me keep going. Robert Howard, what's up, Kevin? Fellow Buckeye fans. I hope I'm not too late. I had no notifications at all. Again, this was a turn and burn. I just said we're doing a show. Bang. I did not schedule it or anything like that. So I do apologize for that. Everything will be there on the rebroadcast. And for those of you listening on the audio channels, obviously I've turned it at that point, but I do have to go through and upload it to our audio server so that it is there for that. Odysseus is talking about me backing ND. Michael Campbell would be so shocked. Is it me backing Notre Dame or fading Georgia? Which is it? I think it's me fading Georgia. I think they're I'm picking against Georgia. I don't think that they are their dominant self. I think that they have a great front seven on defense. They have a good secondary. And then they have 11 guys on offense. I just don't I don't think that highly of them this year. I really don't. I mean, I really kind of wanted to see a level of chaos where they got left out of the field. And of course, I mean, people can make the argument, the counterpoint of, well, if you think they're bad, you should want them in the field because that takes the spot of another good team. Did we really have 12 good teams this year? And I understand that Boise State gets in because of how the things work, and Arizona State gets in because of how things work. So there certainly were not enough good teams in my book to fill all the slots. So let me keep going here. Again, if I skip questions, it's just me trying to get caught up so we don't go 2 hours and I have no voice for the remainder of the trip. The Ohio statement says, if Ohio State wins, I'm buying you lunch at Burger King. I don't want you wasting your money. I mean, again, it would be the rudest thing in the world for you to go to the effort to buy me lunch at Burger King, and I sit there and I'm not eating it. But I would be miserable on the inside. I can't believe I have to eat this crap. I mean, again, it is a running joke. And no, I am not doing a pickle challenge. Even if Ohio State goes to Dallas, I am not doing a pickle challenge. No. Odysseus saying, Would you rather sit in LA traffic with Tony munching on an Impossible Whopper with extra ketchup, or have to listen to Desmond Howard for 3 hours? I would sit there and take the car and turn it into oncoming traffic. Option C. I certainly don't want to listen to Des for 3 hours. All the cackling, all the nonsense, no actual point. I don't want to smell a fake burger, a bean burger, in the car while sitting in traffic. I'm taking option C. Taking option C. And Chuki says that LA traffic isn't nearly as bad as Desmond Howard, but the Impossible Whopper is. Warpug says Joel Klatt actually picked the Bucks by 1. Wouldn't that be poetic? Lose by 1 and then win by 1. We do like symmetry around here, so you have that. I mean, there is something poetic about that. Thomas Clark talking about the ESPN Skycast. The best part of that is the lack of announcers. I did actually record Skycast. I didn't know. I have DirecTV at home, so I have like a season pass on Ohio State, and it just recorded every channel that had it. So that was cool. So I did watch it on there. I don't get as annoyed by the announcers maybe as some of y'all do, but I do get annoyed. I'm not going to say I don't, but I do a really good job of drowning out noise. And sometimes that's bad that I do that because I don't hear important things. I just kind of go into my own mind, and I'm watching the game. I'm retaining what I'm watching, but I'm not listening. So the Skycast is cool. I wish they had 2 of the, and they can't, just the way it works. I wish they had 2 of the cameras, so you would be able to get the replays, almost all 22, from the other angle as well. But I think it would be great if there was a type of bandwidth out there that you could get like all of the games like that, like during the regular season. But BTN might need like 70 channels to do that. Ryan Dawes, hey guys, how are you doing, Ryan? I hope it's all going well. Brad Robinson, appreciate you, Kevin, and all the fellas. Enjoy the trip and go Bucks. Yes. Warpug is asking what Skycast is. Basically, when you see that camera that's like on a zip line, that's like the overhead camera, that's the camera that they largely use for that. You're going to get that camera view sometimes during the game, but Skycast is almost entirely that camera. So you're getting a top-down view. So it's not as wide as like all 22 is shot, but you're going to see numbers to numbers, and you're going to get a better angle than maybe just your straight-on 50-yard shot and your on-field cameras and everything else. And of course, as mentioned earlier, no announcers. So if you don't want to hear Kirk Herbstreit, you don't have to. If you want to listen there. And then of course there's the other option too, with Pat McAfee and what he does and his foolishness. Not my cup of tea, but I'm also not here to tell people not to go enjoy it if that's what they enjoy. I enjoy the Manning Cast because I think that I actually gained some football knowledge from listening to them. From Pat McAfee, I just get dumber. But that's just how I feel. Brad Robinson talking about being an overhead view of the game. Where can you watch it? I think it's on ESPNU. I think is where it will be. Check your local listings, but it is certainly going to be one of the ESPN channels. I think it's will have Skycast. And just honestly, if you have a DVR, which almost everybody does these days, DVR them both. Because there are going to be times that there are things that are dropped during the broadcast that I think are important to hear. But I also know that people are sick of being called lunatic fringe and everything else and just don't want to have to hear all that crap. Odyssey is saying it's either on the Deuce or you. I think it's you, but I don't know. Once before I left, I recorded all of the CFP games to make sure that I would have at least the TV copy, especially Texas. If Ohio State wins, I want to have that Texas game available. But yeah, there you go. Let me keep going through here. Sage Ohio says if Joe Blow doesn't play, it's in the bag for the Buckeyes. Yeah, his name is also known as Joe Boserman because he blew. Warpug says, I don't think Georgia can stop the Notre Dame running attack. I think Notre Dame or Georgia is set up well to go against a running attack like that, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to have success. And again, I just don't think Georgia can score enough points. I also thought that the under was going to hit in the Ohio State-Tennessee game, so I'm not always right. I've been on a little bit of a heater recently with my sports bets. And by that, I mean, I'm not like batting 200. I mean, I'm probably winning about 60% of them right now, which is pretty good. I have a couple of bets right now. I have a 4-leg parlay with Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, and Penn State winning. $10 on that. And then I have another one. I'd have to pull up my phone for games tomorrow. For the games tomorrow, just picking money lines on that. If I hit both of those, I think between the two of them, I think I win like $150. Which, yes, please. If you're walking down the street, you're not going to walk past $150 on the street and not pick it up, unless it's like in an alligator's mouth. I don't know. Warpug wants to know, will the Bucks run or pass more? I think you have to be who you are, but also kind of take what's available. How many guys are in the box? Does Oregon have 7 in the box? Do they have 8? Do they have 6? I mean, you have to do some of that, but you also have to. I mean, even if it's a light box and you're just not able to have a lot of success running up the middle on it, I mean, you have to adjust. We saw what happened when it's like, well, damn it, we're just going to do what we want to do, run it, when they were unable to run it against the team up north, and nobody was happy with that. So I don't know if the coaches don't even know here on December 30th at 4:51 Eastern time. I have to do the math in my head because my clock's changed to Pacific. I don't think they necessarily know. You know what you'd like to do. You have teams that go out and script their first 15 offensive plays, but you can't necessarily know what the situation is. I think Ohio State needs to target Jeremiah Smith 10 times and Emeka Egbuka 10 times and this, that, and the other. I think Will Howard needs to run a little bit more. I've got all sorts of ideas. I wasn't there at practice. I'm not watching tape. I would much rather take Ross Fulton's opinion on how a game should work than my own. I understand my shortcomings. My understanding of football is back to the late 80s. It's certainly not here mid 2020s. So, if you want to run I formation, I can tell you a ton about running the I. But outside of that, I just don't listen to my tactical advice. I'm not your guy. I'm not your guy. McChickens is here. Yay, the handsome stud. Thank you. The other two guys that we got a super chat. I didn't even see that. Let me get there. The other two guys are at practice right now. I'm not sure if we're gonna have another show tonight or not, but I think tomorrow we're gonna have a lot of content with all of that. Ryan Dawes, In-N-Out meal for you, Kev. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan, and of course, thank you to Omar as well with the super chats. Means a lot. Means a lot to us that you guys support us with super chats. We're doing something right, or are just look like we are In-N-Out burger deprived. We don't fly out until 3:15 Pacific on the 2nd, so maybe we can hit the In-N-Out by LAX. I don't know for certain. I told the guys, I said, I don't know. I don't have to go to In-N-Out this trip. And here's why. We went on the Oregon trip. And yes, I mean, I would love to have an In-N-Out burger like every time it's available to me. Absolutely. Especially if I can have the company pay for it. But what if Ohio State wins? There's In-N-Out burger in Texas. There's also Whataburger. So, I mean, I'm going to have another opportunity there. Now, of course, people will be like, yeah, but what if Ohio State doesn't win? Well, I'm not going to be very hungry if that's the case, because I'm going to have to pacify a lot of people who are going to be pissed off. So let's just not even put that, what in the air. They're just going to have to win this damn game, because I don't want to have to deal with that. This chat after a loss is horrible. Just horrible to deal with. Yeah. McChicken says, I heard you got arrested last night during the Buckeyes arrival, and that's why we couldn't see it live. Heard you knocked out a little person. I'm going to clean that up. Is that true? Well, Only one part of this, two parts of this are true. Buckeyes' arrival was yesterday, and I was angry. The rest of it is not true. Uh, how do I? We weren't live because security would not allow us to go live, and it's not like they specifically said you cannot do a live shot. It was more of a matter of they didn't know where the heck they wanted us to be and everything else, and they kept changing their minds. And then my tripod was left in the hotel, and we were out on the street essentially waiting for the buses to pull up. And then they still kept moving us around, and they still didn't know what was going on. And I was getting madder and madder and madder because again, I wanted us to be able to go live for you guys. I wanted to do that. So when when things become a stumbling block for me being able to do my job properly, I get mad. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I swear to God, if my tripod was not up in the hotel, I probably would have walked away and just walked back to the hotel. I was that put off by the whole situation. But in my defense, so was everybody else. I was not the only person who was mad. I'm just the only person who can't bite his tongue. And I just there's probably video of me cussing a lot. So that's what happens there. We're gonna just keep scrolling. Oh my goodness, we are almost caught up. Drew wants to know why the Rose Bowl is such a cluster with the media. Well, I'm still here right now, so I'm gonna be careful, but in what I'm saying. But I just think that I'm pausing because I'm looking for the right words. A lot of bowl games forget that Ohio State is the largest traveling media contingent in college football and probably rivals one of the largest traveling media contingents in sports. People will think, oh, well, like, NFL or whatever. NFL traveling media is not that big. I mean, because, okay, let's say you have a website. Let's say you have a website that covers the Browns. Do you have enough revenue with your website to be able to afford travel to Seattle and Denver and San Diego, LA, and is that revenue there when the Browns put up their post-game press conferences? Stefanski's up there, the quarterback is up there, Myles Garrett is up there. All of that's going to be up there, and you're getting open locker room during the week. I don't think that a lot of so I think a lot of NFL, like for the Browns, the Browns are kind of unique because you have a lot of the smaller papers too. So, obviously you got the Plain Dealer or Cleveland.com. You've got the Beacon Journal. You got the Canton paper. I think Lorraine, what was that? The News Journal. I think they traveled. You're going to have some levels and layers of that. I think if you go back 20 years ago, the Dispatch used to cover Browns and Bengals. It just doesn't make financial sense now. But back to my point, to make a long point longer. We as in the Ohio State media contingent, so many people. And Tom and Tony went to the Oregon arrival. And I think they said, at one point they said there were 7 people there. And then another point, I think they said there was like 17 people there. Again, sometimes you just have to say things to make the story work. Either way, there were like 60 people at the Ohio State one. And with the 7 or 17 or whatever the number is, it was a bit of a cluster. But you sit there and you in a situation like that, new security people at a hotel. Yes, Ohio State has stayed at the Intercontinental before. I should have said that, but they've stayed at the hotel before, and but if there's new people there and they don't know what the routine is and everything else, it becomes it really just becomes a mess. It really becomes a mess. And honestly, if we're being completely fair, that arrival thing that they did yesterday should not exist. Period. It is a waste of time. Few people watched our Will Howard and our Cody Simon video. We did get really good numbers on the arrival video. But, truthfully, it would have just been better to sit there and have something at LAX. Like at the Fiesta Bowl with the arrival, we go to the airport. We get video of them coming off the plane. They have a little tent set up. You generally get to talk to the head coach. Each of the head coaches, I think it's just the head coach, maybe a player. I don't even remember. And everybody gets on with their way. But I don't know. I don't know. I certainly at the end of the cycle we do get to fill out, questionnaires about what worked and what didn't work. I'm always fair. I don't hold back. I don't hold back and, oh, I was wronged on this, but I'm not going to say anything. I mean, if something doesn't work, I'm going to tell them, but I'm not a jerk about it. I may be a jerk in the moment because in the moment, but I'm not a jerk about it. And I'm going to say, that first event, and I understand that's mandated by the CFP. They need to retool it because it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. Wingman Ted says, I will agree. The chat is awful after loss. It's terrible, and the problem is Tom and Tony, they hear me talk about it, but they don't see it because they're on the air, and I'm sitting there going through it and trying to delete stuff and ban people and everything else, and my mood gets lower and lower and lower and lower, and I'm pissed off by the end of it, and then I have to sit there and record a morning show with Tom for another 15 minutes when all I want to do is go out and punch a wall. So yeah, just Ohio State is just better when it doesn't lose. So let's just make that happen. Let me keep go. Warpug's asking how is Judkins' hand? I believe it's fine. I believe it's fine. I don't. He wasn't wearing a wrap or anything when we talked to him last. So I think it's fine. Nobody's 100% right now, but I mean to the point of the broken hand. I mean, you know, he fumbled once in the Oregon game. You don't want to see a repeat of that for certain and everything else. But my understanding is that Ohio State is pretty healthy. And again, healthy doesn't mean 100%. It just means that I'm not expecting to get the participation report, the availability report, and there to be a bunch of names that we were not talking about. Wingman Ted, are you guys going to the Rose Parade, or is it a tough time of the day for y'all? Tom is talking about going. I have no interest in going. I have no interest in going. I've gone to it as a kid, been there, done that, and it is a tough time. It's just a tough time and everything else, and you get locked into a spot. I mean, at least the advantage of being media is they have a spot there, so you don't have to get there at the crack of dawn to stay overnight and camp on a street somewhere. But it's televised on a lot of channels. Certainly out here in LA, it's like on every damn channel. But it's going to be on several channels wherever you may call home. So I don't know necessarily how we, from one fixed location, can do a better job of covering it than a network who has cameras at multiple spots. Not only has cameras at multiple spots, but has the cards on. This is the float by the Los Angeles Shriners, and da 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 da. Did you know that there are 1.2 million roses on here, and that a dog peed on it? I mean, all of that's we don't know that stuff, so I don't think that there's really any way to do that. Now, for a photographer, it's great. It's great. You take the pictures, people look at them. It's different than what's on the TV, but for me to shoot it, it doesn't make any sense to me. Now, Tom may feel differently, and then we may spar over it. But I'm not shooting it. Let me just keep going. We had some conversation about the game 24-21. Iowa, buck 50 left in the third. So as we're getting here, decelerating into our last couple of questions, that game is on ESPN. Again, the Music City Bowl out of Nashville, Tennessee. Warpug saying 31-14, Ohio State. Our predictions will be up either Friday or Saturday morning, or Friday or Saturday of game, how the week works. Tuesday or Wednesday morning, our predictions will be up at that point. Again, I'm not positive. The story is not sitting in the queue at this point. McChicken says go to Ross Fulton's house and take a lap in his pool. I do have swim trunks with me, but I don't think I'm going to have time for that. Again, the truncated schedule not allowing me any time to go out and do anything. I have left the hotel once since being here, and that was to go to the team arrival deal. And I wish I just could have stayed in the hotel because that was such a nightmare. And Ryan Dawes says that he'll be a part-time mod. You don't want to do it, dude. It's horrible. It is horrible. I would not want to wish that upon anybody. I like you too much to allow you to take a bullet like that. It is terrible. And the reality is, a lot of our regulars are here. I haven't seen I haven't seen El Suzabo. I haven't seen some of our other regulars, but it's not the regulars that are the issue. I mean, we do have a couple regulars that can be a little negative. That's fine. Again, I'm not saying lunatic French. I'm not Kirk Herbstreit. But it's a lot of people who stumble in, and we like it when the people stumble in. We want the show every single time we do a show. We want 5,000 people watching it, every 10,000 people watching it. We got 469 nice watching it right now. So you need to have the people who come in, and we've recently this year added streaming it on Twitter as well. So it's a lot of the flybys that are the ones that come in and want to light a torch and burn everything to ashes, and then napalm the ashes. And you'll have that. I mean, you'll have that. I get it, but yeah, it's tough. But let me tell you, a big win. It was kumbaya freaking ya after they beat Tennessee. It was kumbaya. I was very happy with the chat at that point. Of course, there was still some, I think one or two Michigan people like, yeah, but you didn't beat us. Well, can't freaking do anything about that at the moment. But whatever. The chicken says Mark has me on a short leash. Exactly. If I'm not on a short leash, I'll run wild. I'll run wild. Rick S says that just stumbled in. Warpug, what's your opinion on how the O-line will show up? I think it's a lot of it. I think is a result of who you're lining up against. And we heard so much about Tennessee and James Pierce Jr. and da 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 da. And they had an answer. And I talked to Donovan Jackson about that a little bit today. And it was like, we had a game plan, but we also executed well. Ohio State, I mean, when it went against Penn State, I think Penn State has a really good defensive line. Obviously, Abdul Carter, they did give up a couple sacks to Carter. I mean, they didn't give up any sacks to Tennessee. But they've had, they had the 3 weeks leading up to Tennessee to get things right. Now they, then as soon as Tennessee was done, they had to focus on Oregon. They knew who their opponent was. They had to focus on Oregon. There was no time we're going to spend 3 days working on ourselves and then 6 days, preparing for Oregon. It's all hands on deck. You got to prepare for Oregon at that point. But I think they'll do okay. I think Will Howard's going to have to move the pocket a couple times. I think he'll probably get sacked a time or two. But he's not Ohio State doesn't give up a ton of sacks. They just don't. I mean, again, let me pull this up while I can again. I think we're going to go closer to an hour and a half. Which I'm fine with. I'm losing the voice a little bit, but that's fine. Let me see if I put it in my notes. It's not like they only sacked Ohio State once last time, and now it's different. They have Jordan Burch. They didn't have Jordan Burch last time. They have Jordan Burch. Mateo Uyangale is better now than he was, and he was the one who had the sack. So does it mean Ohio State's going to give up 2 sacks, 6 sacks? What is it going to be? I mean, the offensive line is going to dictate a lot of this. The offensive line for Ohio State is going to dictate a lot of this. I think they got a plan. I think the way that you saw CJ run against Georgia in 22, I think you're going to see CJ I think you're going to see Will just go for it. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see some designed runs. I think you're going to see some times where he's just going to have to run out of that's all that's there. Ohio State is not going to lose this game for lack of effort. I just promise you that. That's not going to happen. It's not going to be. Oregon is a really good team that is capable of winning any given game. But so is Ohio State. As long as that game doesn't involve the game plan that we saw at the end of November. Stray Dog says, need a pay-per-view noon cam for every media event I cover. I was a little hungover this morning, to be honest. Didn't have a headache. I took I guess the big thing now is liquid IV. I take something called Zip Fizz. So I took a Zip Fizz last night. I only have 2 more, so I have to be careful. and I'm going to have to buy some. If Ohio State wins, I'm going to have to go to Costco and buy some. So I took care of myself, but I was a little shaky and not super friendly this morning until like I felt better around lunchtime. But if there was a market for that, for a pay-per-view, I don't know what the price would be. I don't know. I don't know how much we could get away with charging and get people to actually watch it. It'd have to be enough to cover the expense. Now, what that is, I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you what, there's not going to be a pay-per-view stream of any pickle challenges. I'm not doing any pickle challenges. Did Devin Brown travel with the team? Yes, Devin Brown is here. I saw him walk in with the team in the team uniform. If you hadn't seen it, it was like I think it was like a cream colored like athletic top that had like a Nike with like a rose in it and Ohio State and their number. I mean, really nice looking stuff. So yeah, I did see him absolutely. Rick S says have to stop Jordan James. Period. Yeah, he falls forward. He is a back, and they didn't really use Noah Whittington, their backup back. I think we're going to see a little bit more 1-2 punch there with that. I don't know if Whittington was limited or what the case was there. I think some of it was probably Jordan James was just running so well. And last question, barring a super chat from Odysseus, should run off tackle with Trey on Birch's side to take advantage of speed. Birch is an oversized defensive end. It's what they say sometimes, that you got to run at those guys. I mean, instead of trying to get away from them, you got to run at them. And there's certainly some advantages there. So I don't necessarily disagree, but be interesting to see what the game plan is. And we have a lot of opportunity to keep talking about that as the game is still just a little less than 48 hours away. A little less than 48 hours away. It is 5:11 on the east, 2:11 out here on the west. The game will kick off sometime around now in 48 hours. I mean, they're saying the telecast, I mean, it's 5 o'clock Eastern. It's very rare that a game starts like at the top of the hour. I mean, maybe sometimes the first, like the noon ESPN game does, or certainly the one on the Deuce does. But there's always going to be some pomp and circumstance. They're going to want to show the bands and the flyover and everything else. So I would say right now, as of this moment that we're doing the show, if you're listening on replay, I can't help you. About 48 hours away from kickoff. I will jump in here for Warpug. So Devin is likely the number 2. Him saying, 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I think that Sayin is seeing more reps to get up to speed, since he is going to be the guy next year, in my opinion. And and I'll leave you with this. And I know that's not fair. Oh, you're asking us a question and not going to give us a chance to answer it. But it's life in a big city. It's easier right now to not worry about what your next stop is going to be because the academic term has not started. But the academic term does start after the Rose Bowl and prior to the semifinals. Are you going to see players who have dragged out the process a little bit not be there for the third round, the semifinals, because of that? I do not know what Devin's plans are. I mean, you could very well just sit there and stay with your team through the semester and enroll in the summer. And I'm sure that if you're being a good citizen and everything else, that they're going to let you go through spring practice. And if I'm a quarterback, I'm probably feeling pretty good about sticking around and developing under Day and Kelly and everything else. And you know where you're going, and you're just gonna have to get into the playbook when you get to your new place. But I don't know the answer to that one. I didn't get to talk to Devin today. I'm sure somebody did. Maybe Tom or Tony did. When they get back, I'll ask them. But keep it locked in here, because we have so much more content coming here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle and at Buckeye Huddle as well. $4.99 for your first month. Sign up, please. Check out everything that we got there, but also here on YouTube. So much video. As I said, every hour, on the top of the hour, releasing another Media Day video. I think all the way up to about 9 p.m. Eastern, I think is what I have there. And we'll go there. All right, McChicken, one more question. And then I'm getting out of here, unless I get a super chat. How comfortable is the hotel bed, and did Tony spoon you? We have 2 beds, and Tom slept on the cot of shame, which is the floor of shame. We do not have a cot. So he had to do that. I got here the night prior, so I marked my territory and already had a bed and made sure to spit on all of the pillows. One more stray dog. I know I keep going. Devin's dad posted on X his family flying in on their own plane. I think they are committed for the rest of the year. I met Devin's dad at the in San Antonio at the it was the Army All American Bowl still at that point, and I so often hard not to root for this kid. Really, in this case, it's hard not to root for this kid. He's a great kid and everything else, and sometimes situations don't necessarily work out. It's how it is. I mean, quarterbacks, he could go somewhere and tear it up. Hell, Kyle McCord, granted he had like 6,000 pass attempts. I mean, he tearing it up at Syracuse. So it's just a matter of how things work out, and it just didn't work out. And it is what it is. I know a lot of people who are non-athletes who started a school and transferred to another school because they went to school for a wrong reason. They followed a boy or a girl or somebody to a school, or they want to get closer to home or whatever. I mean, it's not necessarily a unique situation. It's not something that only athletes deal with. There's a lot to it. But on that note, I want to thank you all for joining me here on the Bg Me Kickoff. Again, it is Monday, December 30th, about 2 days exactly away from the Rose Bowl game. Ohio State, Oregon, with a trip to the Cotton Bowl on the line into the national semifinals. These are the quarters. I'm looking forward to it. I know you are looking forward to it as well. We will talk to you soon. And signing off here from the sun finally came out. Sunny California, probably smoggy too. Until then, have a great day, and we will talk to you all very soon.